Hey everyone, my name is Wedge. The release for Battle for Zendikar is right around the corner, and you know what that means. Drafts for days. Release weekend at stores is all about drafting. In this video, I'm going to talk about the absolute best commons and uncommons in each color. I won't focus on rares because why focus on bombs we all know are ridiculous, like this guy. It's more important to talk about which cards you pick when your rare is this. Or this, or, oh yeah, definitely this. Hope you enjoy this video, and if you do, remember to hit that like button. Helps out a lot. As always, we'll begin with white cards. At the common level, white has easily the best removal in the set, hands down. There really isn't another color that comes even close. Sheer Drop and Gideon's Reproach are all-stars and are both first pickable. It is important to note that you want to get your first Sheer Drop as early as possible, but after that, prioritize the Reproach. Sheer Drop is great and it has amazing late game potential, but it is sorcery speed and Reproach is instant speed. Grab your Sheer Drops early, no more than 2 of them, then take every single Reproach you see until the end of time. For the record, the best non-removal white common, probably Courier Griffin. A nice flyer with a big butt that gains you life, can't go wrong there. White uncommons, how about some more removal because the removal at common just wasn't good enough. Royal's Retribution is straight up unfair, easily one of the best uncommons in this set. This is a blowout if you get to cast it. Certainly first pickable and will mess up your opponent's board no problem. Double white is kinda but the Royal is worth going heavy into white. In a format with a lot of 1, 2, and 3 toughness creatures, the Retribution is a bomb. Oblivion Ring effects are always valuable in limited play. This format isn't any different at all. Stasis Snare is bonkers and should be first picked a lot of the time. Having Flash is also particularly awesome. It'll straight up remove any creature, and with a lack of enchantment removal in the format, it'll be around for a bit against most strategies. Enjoy the efficient removal at instant speed, so good. Next up, blue cards. We'll start with the commons, and in my opinion, the obvious best blue common. Eldrazi Sky Spawner is the new Sandstep Outcast. So much value here. 3 mana for a 2/1 flyer and a 1/1 that sacks for mana ramp? Come on. This card could easily be an uncommon. Drop this on turn 3 and you'll likely get in a few shots with the Birth Sack itself. Just really good value here. The next best blue common is easily Clutch Occurrence. It should surprise no one that this is at the top of my list. I love unsummon effects. I love them even more when they're in a format with giant creatures. Best part? Late game this awakens. An unsummon effect that gets even more upside late game? A no-brainer. While you won't be super happy to first pick this, I guarantee it'll happen sometimes. It's an amazing tempo card. Unsummon plus a creature, hold me back. Blue uncommons, gotta start with Ruination Guide. The card is straight up ridiculous. Turn all your Scions into 2/1s? Yeah, totally fair. Also has Ingest? Great. The guide is everything you want for an Eldrazi deck. It has Devoid itself, it triggers Ingest, it makes everything you have bigger, and for only 3 mana, definitely a high priority uncommon. Speaking of high priority uncommons, Windrider Patrol is one of my favorite triggers in the format. When it deals combat damage to a player, scry 2, so brutal. There isn't a whole lot that deals with flying creatures in the format besides, other flying creatures. Even just 1 hit from this is 4 damage, and you get to go pretty deep. In a 40 card deck, scry 2 is basically like scry 3 in a 60 card deck. So deep, great value, and a threat that must be answered. It's very strong. Next up is black, a color whose commons, in my opinion, are generally terrible. The best one is easily Complete Disregard. 3 mana, instant speed, exiles. Exiling is great for Ingest, also avoids any indestructible shenanigans, and the cost isn't too bad for the format. Nothing that drops earlier than turn 3 is going to be too bad for you. Removal is removal, and this is pretty efficient. My gut instinct would say that Demon's Grasp is the next best common because it's removal, but 5 mana sorcery, so no thanks. I guess I'll have to go with Bone Splinters. Not that the card is terrible, but it's only going to be good in decks where you have expendable creatures. It has to be in an Eldrazi deck with a ton of Scions. If you don't have that, this card becomes terrible. If it isn't that, I guess it's Silent Skimmer. Let's just move on. Don't first pick a black common if it isn't Complete Disregard. Just don't. Black uncommons, the only one I care even a little bit about is Grip of Desolation. It's a monster. Exiling a creature and a land at instant speed, I don't care at all that it's 6 mana, not even a little bit. All I care about is that it 2-for-1s them, and that makes me feel warm inside. Top 3 removal spells in the entire format right here. If you see this pack one, pick one, you'd be hard pressed to find a card to take over it. It's so strong. I guess I should mention Rising Miasma, but that's only because board wipes are cool. I actually don't really like this card outside of a pure control strategy. If you aren't in that, and this card will kill some of your team as well, might as well just not run it. Not joking, it's super hit or miss. Red commons. Now this is a color and rarity that goes pretty deep. Touch of the Void is the obvious best common, efficient removal that exiles, easy peasy. It is sorcery speed, but again, still efficient and still what you want at any point in the game really. There are a lot of big dudes, but there are many more creatures that are smaller and will give you trouble way before the big ones will, so enjoy the removal. Next to white, red goes the deepest on efficient removal. Stone Fury is definitely the second best red common. It is 5 mana, but its instant speed and scales to the late game thanks to its damage equal to Lance Claws. Much better than Outnumber, you'll be happy to get even 2 of these in your draft deck. Instant speed really helps here. As far as non-removal red commons, gotta give it to the Valakut Predator. That landfall trigger is insane even if you aren't in a landfall deck. Turn 4 hitting with a 4/4, yeah, it's super good. You don't want to first pick this, but if the pack is actual garbage, it's a great diamond in the rough. Red uncommons. As far as I'm concerned, there is only one red uncommon worth talking about. Rolling Thunder is a menace to society. If you were around the first time this card was printed, you remember this is just so unfair. You would need a Planeswalker or basically Planar Outburst to pass Rolling Thunder. The best uncommon in this set and better than 90% of the rares for the format. Rolling Thunder should be a mythic if we're talking pure limited playability. Yes, it's that powerful. Yes, it will win you all of the games. Yes, it's worth hate drafting. I am not joking. This card is stupid and unfair and needs to be banned in limited. Sure, friggin' fireballs, man. Just fireballs. Green commons, almost as weak as black, honestly. Thank goodness the color has a decent removal spell and unnatural aggression. While this isn't as good as most fight spells in that they usually give a buff to your creatures before fighting, this does exile the defeated creature upon death. Nice and just enabler. Plus, instant speed lets you use this efficiently. It does sort of make up for the lack of pump, plus its synergy with landfall is kinda ridiculous. Drop a land, buff a creature, trade up. The rest of the green commons, you don't want to first pick them. If you're in Converge, Tajuru Stalwart is a high priority pick for you, same with Lifespring Druid. If you're in the Eldrazi deck, it's Eyeless Watcher. If you just want good creatures, Giant Mantis, same with Oran Reef Invoker, Snapping Gnarlid is great in Landfall. There are plenty of great tier 2 green commons, but until you know what strategy you're going into, I would avoid picking them too early. Most of them thrive in very specific matchups. Green uncommons are actually insane. Our exclusive preview card, Tajuru Warcaller, has definitely lived up to the hype. This thing's a beast. The Anthem effect, even just one time, can be a game ender, especially when you turn your 1/1s into 3/3s. Impossible to fight back. Stick it in a deck with other allies, get the trigger more than once, no way your opponent fights back from that. It's so brutal. I would say Brood Monitor has strength almost equal to that of the Warcaller, 6 mana for 6 power and toughness and 3 mana whenever you need it. It's possible that this is just the best green uncommon. It'll matter what kind of deck you're running, but either way, this and the Warcaller, both are first pickable and both make your board position really scary, like really scary. I think mentioning Murasa Ranger is important just because if you're in the landfall deck, this becomes probably the best non-rare for the strategy. That landfall trigger is hilariously broken, and if this creature isn't stopped, you'll be staring at something bigger than Ulamog itself in no time. Thought it was worth bringing up. I think that does it for the best commons and uncommons in each color. Remember, these cards are mostly cards that can go into any strategy. I tried to pick the most flexible cards I could so that you can take most of them without being committed to a certain strategy or color pair. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Thanks, the Community Cup have actually drafted this set a whole lot already, so take advantage of what I know. Ask away. As always, subscribe for the latest and most reliable Magic the Gathering information you could ever need. This is the Manosaurus. I'm Wedge. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
What?